Hey y'all, for those of y'all who have seen my videos, they're in my shorts about the house that we lived in. I lived in that house for 10 years. My husband lived in it longer than that. There is backstories about that house. In the picture where it's my husband, my stepdaughter, and my niece is in the wheelchair. The black shadow, the solid dark black shadow, there's nobody there, okay? There was nobody standing behind them. And even if it was, the dark part of the shadow, I don't know, the shadow would have been a little different because where the light was situated, because the ceiling fan went out or whatever, because when I moved in with my husband, I bought a brand new ceiling fan, and then we had overhead light, but we used a lamp, one of those floor lamps, and it illuminated the whole living room. But where it was, the shadow would have been different. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have been right there, and it wouldn't have been as dark in some spots and light in some spots. Oh, it would have been a whole lot different. Okay, and the video short with my oldest son holding my littlest son, his little brother, and the curtain, the green curtain that's up, that is not a window, y'all. I have a room separator. You could see it, and yes, I understand it does look like a window, but it's not. It is a big double door entry to our dining room. The reason I had the room separator there and the curtain up is because my little chihuahua, which was blind, I didn't want him going in the dining room, and I didn't want him going in the kitchen. I wanted to stay right there in the living room and in the foyer. You know, that way I could watch him if he had to go outside, you know, whatever. Me and my oldest son, Devin, my youngest son, Roy, we were the only two in the house. Now, the shadow that goes from left to right, that was inside the dining room. That was not outside. And if we still lived in that house, I could show y'all what I mean by when I say nobody could get back there behind the house in that one particular spot. There's no way. And even if they could wedge themselves back there, they couldn't go that fast. So it was in the dining room. You can tell by the shadow it was in the dining room. My next to youngest son was at school that day, and my other son was outside. He was getting the lawnmower stuff ready to start mowing the grass, so it was not him. And like I said, you can't get in between that dining room window and where the hill started. There's no way. There was no way. So when you mow back there, which it was concrete anyway, so there's no reason to be back there with a lawnmower, and you can't get a lawnmower back there anyhow. But to get the bank mowed in the backyard where the window is, you had to stand on the hill and, you know, kind of tilt it down. You had to lean your body down and pray you don't fall. Yeah, my hair's falling out of my bonnet, but anyways. And then I kept feeling something cold in the living room. Roy was taking a nap. I was there by myself with Roy. Marlon, Devin, and Seth had left and went to a friend's house. And it was just me and Roy. And I kept feeling this cold sensation. So I put it on the app that shows you, like, it detects people. It senses by the heat and, you know, everything else. So I put that app on, and I kept going back and forth, and right there it was in my son's little toy basket. You can see an outline of an arm reaching into the toy basket, and it looks like it's kneeling, looking down in it. That I can't explain. And hey, buddy, my son come in here, and it's okay, buddy. And anyways, then the one where me and my son was cleaning the house, my husband came in. I sat down to talk to him, and at the corner of my eye, I seen somebody standing in there with him. But they were standing closer to the double door entry than they were closer to him. And so I was like, I kept telling my husband, I said, Amos, do you see that? He said, no, what? I said, it looks like somebody standing there with Seth. Well, Seth kept sweeping. I told Seth, I said, I feel like somebody's in there with you. And he says, I feel it too, Mom, but it doesn't bother me. So, I'm making a video, buddy, explaining the ghosty videos that we caught. But anyways, that was Roy. Anyways, I put it on the app on Snapchat where it has to have a face in order to have a dog, and it will not stick its tongue out unless you open your mouth. That's an old app on Snapchat, or filter, whatever you want to call it. Filter. It's an old filter. It's been around for ages. You have to have a face, and you have to open your mouth, and it goes like that. Okay. If you look at it really, really close, and my stepdaughter's the one that pointed this out. She said, Shell, if you look real closely at it, she said, you can make an outline of a face, and it looks like a woman. So I did. I screenshot it. I zoomed it in, and you can see the outline of a woman's face. You can see the eye and everything else. And my husband kept telling me, he said, maybe it's just a glitch. And I said, even if it does look like a face, the mouth's not going to open. You have to open your mouth in order for the dog to stick out his tongue. So I showed him. I went up to a picture, and I did the filter. It had the dog face, but never did open its mouth and stick out its tongue and do that, sound. It was just a dog face. So
actually, I looked back on that video. It did. Yeah. It did.
What? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But in the video I did of the picture of one of his family members, it never did open its mouth. But anyways,
do you remember this meme from that one soldier that went and the hat was tilted?
But anyways, that is the backstories on those pictures. I do have a lot more pictures. I've got videos, but it's going to take me a while to find them because we did upgrade our phones, and it got all my videos and pictures and everything for the past 10 years got stored in my cloud storage. So it's going to take me a while to go through every single one of them. But me and my stepsister did do a background research on that house, and come to find out, there was a young boy. He was probably about 16, I think. He was 16, 15, something like that. He unalived himself in the basement of that house. And the man who owned that house before we bought it, he did not die in that house, but he did in the hospital, but he was very attached to that house. And the old man that we kept seeing in that house, I believe, was him. If my stepdaughter was here with me right now, she could tell you about the time she had mouthed off to her own mother and backtalked my husband. she started to go upstairs, and her ponytail went straight up in the air. She got pulled backwards off the steps. There has been plenty of times that I have walked up the steps, and I'm not the only one. It's all women who has come to the house. They feel something slap them on their behind. And you could, in the house, in between, I think we had looked at the time. I think it was 1 o'clock. From 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning, you could hear nothing but a music box. Nobody in the house owned a music box. Then from 12 to 1:30 in the living room, if you go in there and you put your head down on the floor, put your ear down to the floor, you could hear what sounded like a drill coming up through the floor. And now when he was about 2 years old, he was walking from the living room to my mom and my stepdad's room, which was, we had made the dining room into their bedroom when they moved in with us. And he walked in there and he told my mother, he said, "Mama, make Joshua leave me alone. Tell Joshua no." I never told my mom about the boy that unalived himself in that house.
I don't remember doing
and
that.
Honey, you was 2 years old.
Oh.
You're not going to remember. But anyways, she told me, I had come home from work. I worked a long shift that night, or that day and night. I got home about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And I did just like I always did. I walked in there to give her a hug, kiss her on her forehead, tell her I love her, good night, and I'll see her, tomorrow or whatever. Well, she told me, she said, "Michelle, you ain't gonna believe what happened." I said, "What happened?" And she said, "Roy come walking in here and said, 'Mama, make Joshua leave me alone. Tell him no.'" I said, "Huh?" She said, "Yeah, he said to tell him to leave me alone." Now, I never told my mom. Like I said, never told my mom about the boy who unalived himself in that house. And I told my husband, but I never told him his name. And so I was talking. Do it again. But anyways, I was talking to my son, and we started talking about when we had researched the house and everything. He said, "Mom," he said, "you remember the guy's name? The boy?" I said, "The teenager? The teenager?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I remember his name." I said, "But I never told your mama." He said, "I haven't either." And we never talked about it in front of him, so he didn't know the name. Why would we talk about it in front of a 2-year-old child? But I finally told my mom. And yeah, I finally told her who Joshua was.
When you're younger, you're seeing more things because babies and toddlers are like, "Hey, who's that man right there?" Might be a ghost.
Could be. But now we have sold that house and we have moved. And the house that we live in now, there is nothing in here. It is not spooky wooky. It is a very calm house, very peaceful house. I love this house. I could walk through this house in total darkness and just feel so much at peace. I'm so happy to be here in this house that we're in now.
Instead of that old house.
That old house was creepy. There was one night that I got up and my husband said, "Where are you going, baby?" I said, "I'm going to the bathroom." He said, "Oh, okay." And so I got up, went to the bathroom, and I walked out, and on the landing where stairs come up from the foyer upstairs. We had a little landing. There was a very, very dark shadow of a man wearing a hat. And when I tell you, I took off and I jumped on our bed and I woke my husband up and I said, there's somebody standing on the landing. He jumped up, he went downstairs, door was locked, everything was secure. He went through every nook and cranny of that house. Wasn't nobody in there. It wasn't supposed to be in there. Everybody was asleep.
Oh, I never told Mom, but you remember when I went downstairs and I was sleepwalking?
Yeah, that's another thing that I need to upload.
When I woke up, I saw like a shadow in the corner.
Yeah, we have security cameras, and I went through that every inch of that video 3 times watching it, trying to see where he come downstairs. You can see in the beginning of the video where my husband was holding him and brought him upstairs and put him in, you could hear him, put him in his room, telling him good night, he loved him, and you could hear our door shut. And then, like, a couple of hours goes by, and then you could hear Roy scream, "Mommy!" and crying. And he's downstairs on the couch. But in the beginning of the video, you could see him clearly in my husband's arms being put in his bed. You could hear him running upstairs. You could even see him walking past the camera and see him going upstairs. And you could hear him going in the hall upstairs, opening up our bedroom door and screaming. And you could hear me saying, "What's wrong, Roy? You okay? You okay?" We can't figure it out. We cannot figure that one out to save our lives.
I don't even think I sleepwalked. I think what happened is something carried me.
You think something carried you? I don't know. That's something I don't know. But I know my husband brought him upstairs.
Yeah.
I know he did.
I still remember that day, and yeah, I still remember.
Yeah, he was 4 when that happened.
And I still remember it.
But you can remember some things when you was 4. But there's a lot of things, like I said, a lot of stuff went on in that house. A lot of spooky wooky stuff. And I don't know if they're going to tear down the house and rebuild or fix that house up. I don't know. We sold it. Like I said, we got out of there. We sold it. I have been woke up, been scratched, I've had bite marks on me. And then I've had some things just sit in the bed with me and rub my head like it was trying to comfort me. I never let it bother me. I never stopped doing my daily chores. So, I'd clean my house. I'd go downstairs and in the kitchen, I'd fix breakfast, lunch, and supper, and then, I'd take care of my grandkids, I'd take care of my kids, and everybody else, and I never let stuff like that bother me, ever. Now, in the laundry room, where the kids were compelled to play, I don't know why, but they love playing in the laundry room, we had this double cabinet thing. Well, I was in there and I was treating the clothes that were stained up. My husband's clothes usually get stained from work, so I always treat his clothes. And I was in there and I was doing that, and I was cleaning in the laundry room, getting the clothes separated. The double cabinet door started like shaking. Then it started swinging open and shutting. And to keep myself calm, I was like, it's just the furnace kicking on.
Or the wind.
Well, there wasn't no wind coming through there, but because I didn't have the windows open. But it wasn't a furnace because it was not cold outside. We didn't have the furnace on. And it wasn't central air because we didn't have central air. We had window units in that house. Our house was old. Anything else y'all want to know about that house? Y'all write it down in the comments and we will do our best to answer it in a video. And I hope I did not bore you from these stories, but oh, there's so much I could tell y'all about this house. So much. But I have lived in haunted houses all my life. I've even had, I lived in a house that was brand new, had just been built, and my bedroom was built over a grave.
God.
Oh, you like Casper, don't you?
Yeah.
He loves Casper Sight. Oh, he loves Ben. But anyways,
remember where he says what I said, a backflip?
Yeah.
I said, lick it, smack it, do
a
a
backflip. But anyways, so yeah, if y'all want to know more about everything that I've went through and everything that went on in that house and what we've seen, and if I can find any videos or pictures, y'all just let me know. If y'all want to see any more or hear any more stories, let me know.